Welcome, everybody. We will wait just 1 minute and then we will get started. We want to make sure we give a chance to everyone to kind of join us in our webinar today. Well, welcome and thank you for joining the Tippie College's Life Lessons webinar. My name is Barbara Thomas and I oversee alumni and constituent engagement here at the Tippie College. And today, our webinar focuses on first steps, finding your financial footing. Now, this webinar is one of 6 Life Lessons webinars that are designed to provide you with insight and ideas for each stage of your life. I will include a link in the chat to the webpage so that you can look at the rest of the series and register for as many as you like. Now, all of our webinars are free and open to the public. We just ask that you do register. And if you want to share this information, we ask that you ask them to register as well so that they can attend. And as always, our webinars are transcribed, recorded, and shared on both the Tippie College's YouTube page and our alumni web pages. Now, several days after our webinar, we will send an email to all those who registered with a link to the video. And as a bonus for this webinar, we have several handouts from our speakers that we will include a link to those handouts as well. Now, today during our webinar, you can submit your questions through the Q&A button that you see at the bottom of your screen. Now, please note, there's also a chat button and a Q&A button. Chat is a little different than in the meetings, and note that you can chat to everyone or to just the host and panelists. And we will do our best to answer the questions at the end of our presentation. And so next, I'm going to ask Bob to just go forward one slide. I do want to make sure that everyone knows that these Life Lessons webinars are designed to provide an overview of matters that you may wish to consider at different stages of your life. The webinar information does not and is not intended to constitute legal or financial advice. Instead, all webinar information, content, and materials are for general information purposes only. Please contact your personal financial advisor or attorney to obtain advice with respect to your specific circumstances. And with that, I will introduce our speakers. So Bob Walker serves as an associate professor of instruction for the Iowa John Papa John Entrepreneurial Center, known as JPEC, and he is also faculty advisor for Enactus, Sigma Nu Tau, is that right?
Sigma Nu Tau.
Sigma Nu Tau, and Money Think student organizations. Bob has more than 25 years of experience in higher education as associate professor and degree coordinator with Kirkwood Community College, and associate professor and department chair at Mount Mercy University before joining the University of Iowa. Bob has experience in the banking industry, running his own consulting practice, and involvement in small business startups. He and his wife co-authored the college textbook, Personal Finance, Building Your Future with McGraw-Hill, which is in its 2nd edition. He received a bachelor's degree from Miami University, an MBA from where else? The University of Iowa, and a PhD from Iowa State University. Our next speaker is Brenda LaMarche. She is the president and founder of BRL HR Consulting. She has worked as a human resources generalist across companies of all types, sizes across the U.S. since receiving her BBA from the Tippie College of Business. She is a committed Rotary volunteer, a member of the Society of Human Resource Management, known as SHRM, the Iowa City Business Partnership, and the Cedar Rapids Metro Economic Alliance. And lastly is our speaker, Corey Collins. He is a UI Tippie alum from the class of 2014, and he started his career post-graduation as a technical recruiter and has worked in a wide variety of jobs since then. He spent 3 years working at Facebook, which is now Meta, and currently works at Netflix in a new role as the Global Emerging Talent Partner, where he hires interns and new grads across the organization. Congrats to Corey on that new job that he starts on Monday. And so I want to thank all of our speakers for joining us today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Walker. Bob?
Thanks, Barb, and welcome everyone, and welcome my co-host. I think this is a very exciting way to start off on here. And as we prepared this, I was kind of looking at what would I wanted to know when I graduated college, had my first or second job, anything like that, and how it makes a difference. Now, Christy and I wrote that personal finance textbook, and I really see it more as a book on happiness than on finance. We go over the basic finances, but when you take a look at money arguments, according to Jimerson Law Firm, is the second leading cause of divorce. And if you look at Investopedia, debt is the number 2 reason for divorce. So as you take a look at those numbers and think about your own situation, how can you reduce that stress and hopefully make your life a little bit happier? So in my session here, and I'm going to be brief, I could talk all day on this, but we're going to start off with values. I think you need to have a budget on values. We'll talk about budgeting on here, and then the importance of compound interest. They say the best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So, let's get started on here with finance and your visions and values on here. I really think my philosophy is that money does not create happiness, but using money as a resource in accordance with your values can increase happiness. So a way to think about your values on here is, what do you want out of life? What do you want to be known for? And as I get older, I keep thinking, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And to me, a big part of that is in the classroom, working with students on here. So the other thing that I really want to stress is personal finance success is your definition. We all get bombarded with commercials and car ads and everything else. I want this vacation home with on the beach with a pool and everything like that. But it's really what you define it as. I know some people that, man, they're happy on $10,000 a year and, just really the minimalized lifestyle. And then, other people who make millions a years and are not happier for that. So I really want you to think about, what is your definition of financial success? Now, Hank Madden was my entrepreneurial professor when I was here getting my MBA. And Hank used to say, if you're going to dream big, right? Don't have little bitty dreams. But then he said, be careful what you dream for. It just might come true. So one of the things I want you all to dream about, and you think about your values, is what would have happened, unless you're the person who lived in Illinois, who won the Mega Millions at $1.337 billion. Or if you took cash, that would have been 780 millions. And, after taxes, that would have been about 390 million. Now, to put that in a frame of reference, when I was a banker, your traditional hard-sided briefcase filled with $100 bills would be about $1 million. So to visualize on your wall 390 briefcases all full of $100 bills, what would you do with it? What would you do if money wasn't an issue? And this brings back to Hank, dream big, dream really, really big. I play the lottery game in my mind all the time, and more of these dreams have come true than not, and I haven't won the lottery. Just let you know. So think about what you want out of life, what your legacy is, and your values. And if you're with someone else, a significant other, partner on there, get together with each other and talk about your values. And then we'll talk about how your budget matches your values on there. I've always thought if you really want to take a look at what people value, look at where they spend money, look at their checkbook. So one of the handouts that you guys will have, and this came from our textbook on here, is the Every Penny Counts spreadsheet. And I don't want you to change your lifestyle. I want you guys to have a great, wonderful life, what you want it to be. But Ben Franklin said, little leaks can sink a mighty ship. If you can stop some of those little leaks, you can change your life, literally change your life. And, you know, it's also known as the latte factor. If we say the average latte is $5 with tips, it's $6. I do that 5 days a week. Okay, that's $30 times 52 weeks. That's $1,560. And then I like to put a 10x multiple on it. What does that latte habit cost me in 10 years? Would be over $15,000. Okay, is it worth it? What changes can I make? Do I buy a nice coffee machine at home and not buy my latte and save a lot of money? So this is out there for you. You can download it, you can put it in, but I challenge you all for at least 30 days. Keep track of where you spend every penny. See if that matches up with what your values are. And then what little changes can you make to that to help you with your financial success. Now, financial independence. I think we all want to be financially independent. That gives us freedom. I no longer have to work, right? What people my age are doing now is what we call starting an encore career. I've worked for 20, 30, 40 years, and I have my retirement, and now I can do what I really want. And my wife is in her encore career of farming. She also teaches here at Tippie. But when we look at it on here, can you guys see my cursor? Brenda, okay, good. You know, we have our passive income that I don't work for, whether it's interest, dividends, royalties, anything like that. It's going to start off slow and go up. And then our expenses probably go up, might go down when you get that house paid off. But our financial independence is when our passive income exceeds our expenses. And this is a timeline. Now, for me, for all of us, I want to retire earlier. I want to have my encore career earlier. I'll never retire. What can I do? Two things. I can lower my expenses on here, increase my passive income. So I can do that through riskier investments, higher returns, or putting more money into savings. So to think about where you want to go with this financial independence, think about lowering income, increasing passive income. So y'all have done this for a month. Man, that was a quick month. Y'all are such good students, writing down where you spend every penny. Go back and take a look at your budget. Create a budget. And y'all are business majors, or were at one time. I believe you run your personal finances like a business. Let's come up with a budget. At the end of the month, we're going to compare our actuals versus what we predicted with our budget and have a budget variance meeting. You can call it a budget conference. Again, if you're in a relationship with somebody, and say, okay, where did we do well? And then what can we do differently next time? I don't know if y'all are a big fan of Lion King, but I am. There's two lines I really like out of that. Is when Pumbaa says you got to put your behind in the past, and when Rafiki whacks Simba on the back of the head, and he goes, "What is that for?" He goes, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." Don't beat yourself up for things you've done in the past. You can only change the future, and you're trying to create the future you want it to be. So when you do your budget meeting, hey, what did we do well? And then what can we do differently next time? And life happens. You guys, your budget will, sometimes I just had to buy a new tire. Well, I didn't have that in the budget. So where is that money coming from? So do that. Start off with your budget, your income, your salary, and then a side hustle. If you don't have a side hustle, think of one. Side hustles are a lot of fun, and who knows? I teach entrepreneurship, might become your full-time gig on there. Any of your fixed expenses, your rent, mortgage, internet, streaming services, car payments, cell phone, all that is not going to change. And then your variable expenses as well, meals and entertainment, clothing, vacations on there. And then finally take a look at it. Does your budget reflect your values? Again, money can be a source of a lot of stress. And does this really reflect what I want out of life? Again, we'll go over this pretty quick. The thing, if you're having a hard time sticking to your budget, and I don't know if you guys, Dave Ramsey, he really believes in the envelope system. And Christy and I, when things are tight, we go back to the envelope system. You have how much money you're going to spend on food, on gas or whatever, and you use cash. Studies show right now you spend 12 to 18% more when you get out that plastic because you don't see the money leaving. When you have to get in your wallet and you see that $20 bill going out of your pocket, it has a different psychological effect to you. So again, Dun & Bradstreet, 18 to 20% more when you use credit cards. But the envelope system, again, just get those mailing envelopes. I know we don't mail anything anymore, but put the cash in those. And then you're conscious if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Am I taking money out of one area to pay for groceries on there? The other thing to think about is when you start off your W-4, which is how much money the federal government's going to take out for your taxes. They take it out of every paycheck, and then you fill out your taxes and get a refund or have to pay. Now, mentally, I know I should come as close to zero on my taxes as possible, right? In fact, it's not a bad thing for me to pay the federal government at the end of the year because I got to use that money. If I have too much money in there, the federal government got to use my money without me earning any interest. Now, this is where money has a psychological effect on you as well. I would much rather get a refund than write a check. And when I do my taxes and I have to write a check, my wife will tell you I'm in a bad mood. So I have a little bit more withheld than I probably should, but it puts me in a much better mood at the end of the year. So think about that. To have the maximum withheld, claim zero or single, no dependents on there. But that's one of the first things you have to fill out when you get a job and you can change it. Now, we talked about those little leaks, and this came out of a book that had a big effect on mine. It's Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robbins, Your Money or Your Life. And it talks about voluntary simplicity. When I was out of college, my first jobs, I got to have this, got to have this, got to have this, got to have this. And, what do I need for survival, comforts, and luxuries? And our fulfillment curve of where we're at. And you think about, wow, that first pair of shoes is really important. That 100th pair of shoes, now I have to think, where am I going to store all these shoes? And it causes more of a burden. Just to let you know, too, and we're going to talk briefly on Roth IRAs. Limit in 2022 is $6,000. It's $16.44 a day. If you look at your Every Penny Counts journal, can you save that $16.22? And I challenge you, I'm sure you guys can find $5.50 a day would put you at a $2,000 limit. Now, $6,000, 10% return 40 years from now, you guys are going to be $2.9 million. 45 years, whenever you retire, and 4.7 million. And that would be tax-free. With a Roth, your money goes in after taxes. So as you're starting your career and you're not in high income levels yet, is the perfect time to put into a Roth. And later on, you take it all out tax-free after you're age 59 and a half. Want to show you this, the power of compounding. And Albert Einstein, I don't know if he said this or not, but he's credited with saying it, said compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. Don't know if that's true or not, but it goes back to my oak tree. We have Smart Sam, Wild Willie, and Dedicated Dave. They put $2,000 a month. Smart Sam says, hey, I'm going to put $2,000 a month in for 10 years here, $20,000 total deposit. Then I'm not going to touch it in my IRA. Wild Willie says, hey, I'm out of college. I'm getting my house settled, getting everything going. I don't have the money right now. And he says, I'm going to put $2,000 a month now until I retire, total of $82,000 in contribution. Dedicated Dave, which I hope you all are. And he said, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to set it up on automatic monthly withdrawals, not even think about it, put in $104,000. The difference in starting early. Smart Sam has more money than Wild Willie. Smart Sam is $1.745 million. Wild Willie is just $1.75 million. And only $20,000, $82,000. So by doing your budget, doing your every penny counts, take a look at those little leaks on there. Kind of to sum it up here and turn it over to Brenda, you guys, finding your financial footing, start early. It's so important to start early and then put it away. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not licensed. You get what you pay for. I'm free. But somebody told me where to invest. He said, do the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's 500. It's like playing par on a golf course. Just put the money in there and let it ride. So, take a look at what to do. Doesn't have to be complicated. Monitor your spending, create values-based budget, pay yourself first, have long-term goals and financial independence. And guys, nobody is going to care more about your financial success than you. Take time to become financially literate. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm glad to help out. And, like I said, start off. Money does not guarantee happiness, but using money as a resource in accordance with your value can increase happiness. So I turn it over to Brenda. I hope this helps. I hope it increases your happiness. And Brenda, employee benefits.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brenda LaMarche. I'm the president of BRL HR Consulting, like Barb mentioned, and I'm going to talk to you today about things to think about and prepare for having employee benefits, maybe signing up for the first time with employee benefits through a new employer, or even just in general, what do some of these benefits mean? What is some of the terminology, etc.? Can you go to the next slide, please, Bob? When we're talking about employee benefits, there's several different pieces of information that is helpful for you to know. For example, when you're talking about healthcare options, many times employers are referring to medical, dental, and vision coverage. It applies to different copays, deductibles, maximum expenses that you may have for your out-of-pocket expenses each year. In addition to that, health and care options, including medical, dental, and vision, will have in-network providers and out-of-network providers. And it's important to be aware that the more you utilize an in-network provider saves you the most money for an out-of-pocket expense standpoint. In some of the handouts that we provided, I provided a glossary of information and terms for what all of these things that I'm talking about today mean. So when we're talking about copays, deductibles, maximum expense, and in-network providers, basically the definitions will be found in the FAQs that I've provided as a handout with this seminar. One of the things to be aware of when you're talking about healthcare options, for those that are under the age of 26, it may be the most beneficial to you to stay on your parents' plan. Now, can you go back to the last slide, please? I'm just going to go through some of the rest of these things on the slide first. And then we'll talk about that in one of the next screens. Other types of benefits that are being made available to you through many employers will include things like life and disability insurance coverage. This might include basic coverage that the employer may or may not provide at no cost to you, or they may include additional coverage like voluntary coverage that it would be available to you to purchase at discounted rates through the employer. Disability insurance covers you in the event of a disability should you become disabled due to a medical reason while you're working. Flexible spending and savings accounts provides pre-tax options for you to put money away into a specific account to cover expenses for your out-of-pocket medical expenses or for various child care expenses. There's also health savings accounts that you can choose to participate in if you're also participating in what's called a high deductible health plan. And I'll talk about the various differences between these as well. Retirement accounts are also another great opportunity that you'll be offered when you become employed by many employers that offer you the opportunity to save on pre-tax dollars and save for your future retirement. Can you go to the next screen, please? Thank you. So when we're talking about group benefits, I mentioned a second ago that the question might come into play when you're offering benefits through your employer. Do you stay on your plan or do you sign up for the group plan through your employer? Keep in mind that most insurance coverages, because of the Affordable Care Act, allow employers and require employers to allow dependents to stay on a parent's plan until they reach age 26. Once you reach age 26, then you have to be covered elsewhere and not through the employer's plan. Many young people I've learned and that I work with throughout my different businesses that I work with have students coming out of college that don't know if they need to sign up for coverage, and in some cases don't even know if they're covered on their parents' plans. So that's one of the questions that you should definitely be asking your parents is, am I covered on your health insurance? And if so, when does that coverage end? Those under age 26, according to the law, can actually get married while they're under age 26, and each of those two people that just got married can stay on their parents' plans, but you can't add a spouse to the parents' plan. And so that's another way for young people to be able to save some dollars, is to be able to stay on your parents' plan until you turn age 26, if that is still an option for you as you start your careers. Can you go to the next screen, please? One of the next things that you'll also be asked is whether or not you want to enroll in life or disability insurance coverage. When you're talking about life and disability insurance coverage, many times I hear from my young recent college graduates that I don't need life insurance, I don't need disability coverage. A lot of time it's I'm invincibles, I'm young and I don't need that. But the thing to remember is that life and disability coverage is not just about being for you. It's about your survivors. It covers any expenses. So if you pass away unexpectedly, for example, and you have life insurance, then it covers funeral costs. It may cover the costs if you have children to put money towards college, tuition, bills, clothes, tennis shoes, whatever the case might be, so that life insurance becomes important for you. And if you have family and children, it becomes even more important to make sure that you have enough life insurance to cover the future for your family. In addition to that, disability insurance is also an important benefit for you to make sure that you sign up for if it's available to you. No one plans to become disabled. I know that, a lot of people may say, oh, again, I don't need that coverage, but accidents happen. You never know if you're in a car accident or if you have some sort of sudden health change that's unexpected. Nobody plans to become disabled, and disability coverage will cover you potentially up until your Social Security retirement age, depending on the insurance plan that the employer might be offering to you. So take advantage of plans that employers are offering to you, especially if it's at no cost to you on a per paycheck basis. Additional plans that employers are going to make it available to you would include retirement plans. And retirement plans are a great benefit for you to choose to be participating in when you're talking about group insurance coverage. And one of the common mistakes, like Bob mentioned earlier on the value of the compounding dollar, was that a lot of times people that are coming right out of college don't realize that the more that they're investing at an earlier age, the more they'll have at the retirement age. And so I encourage everybody that I have work with when it comes to small businesses and or large businesses, but my new hires, whether they're a young person right out of college or somebody that has been working in the industry for a long time, to sign up for that retirement plan. You know, I was always raised with the, you know, there's no guarantee that Social Security is going to be there when you retire. And so I have never made that assumption that Social Security is going to be there when I retire. And so I always encourage everybody to participate in a retirement plan if that employer is offering the retirement plan. In addition to that, the monies come out of your paycheck on a before tax basis to save you money on your income taxes. And many employers, not all, but many employers will actually match or do a contribution to the retirement plan if you're choosing to contribute. So that's like giving yourself a raise. So for example, if you have an employer that will do 100% match up to 3%, 5%, 8% of whatever it is that you're contributing, that's free money. That's like giving yourself a raise, a 3%, 5%, or 8% raise at no cost to you into a retirement plan that you will have then available to you when you retire. And so don't miss out on quote unquote free money from your employers, because that is one of the best ways for you to also be able to save an additional amount. In today's world, when I talk to different financial advisors, and I have financial advisors that talk to all, you know, employees at many of the different companies we work with, the financial advisors are recommending that people are contributing at least 15% of what their income would be every paycheck into a retirement plan. And if you think that your employer is going to contribute, say, 5%, then you should be putting in 10% at least for your retirement plan. And between the two of them, you're getting up to that 15% number. So these are some of the things that I think are really important to be thinking about, is making certain that you're investing in those retirement plans. Some other things to think about as well when you're talking about the retirement plans is, the most common questions I get is, how do I even know what to invest in? Now, I can't tell you what to invest in, but I can safely tell you that many plans through your employers will offer you the support and assistance of a financial advisor or an investment advisor on the plan that will help guide you and pick what types of plan or what types of investments are best for you. And they're going to base that information off of your total income as a whole, which might include other jobs, it might include other investments, things like that, and help you pick the right type of investment to put your money into. Some of the things to be aware of is that many plans will offer things like something that's called target date funds, which will automatically rebalance themselves every year at the closer you get to the retirement age. So they'll invest more aggressively at a younger age and less aggressively as you get older. And many employees like to pick those types of funds that I see offered by retirement plans. But again, I can't tell you what to select, but these are the types of questions and things to think about, is you can ask your employer or financial advisor on that plan, what should I be doing? How should I be investing? And or what are my investment choices?
Hey, Brenda, I accidentally skipped your dependents. Do you want to go back to that slide? And then we can go into beneficiaries?
That's fine. It'll work together that way too.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
There you go.
Thank you. So as we're talking about different types of benefit plans, some common mistakes that we do see when we have employees enrolling in plans, and it doesn't matter if it's group health related plans, whether that's life or disability or other types of plans that are made available, is that people don't understand what the definition of a dependent is. So some common mistakes that I see is that sometimes people are trying to cover a domestic partner, which is somebody that's just a roommate or a friend. And a domestic partner is not just a roommate or a friend that you happen to be living with this year for school, for example. A domestic partner to participate in group insurance coverage through an employer actually has to meet specific criteria defined by the plan, and the two people involved in that domestic partner relationship actually must behave and represent themselves like a married couple would. So, you represent each other as a spouse, you have joint income, you have both signed a lease, you have done things that represent yourselves as a married couple. Other things that I typically see happen when we're talking about who is a dependent is that a dependent is generally a person that's going to appear on your tax returns as a dependent. So it's going to be somebody that is a spouse, somebody that is a child, somebody that may potentially is a foster child. I have also seen in some cases a dependent technically could be a dependent parent or an adult child that has a disability of some sort. So dependent is a kind of a broad term, but keep in mind it's generally somebody that's going to appear on your tax returns as a dependent. Some other common mistakes that I find when we're talking about dependents for group insurance coverage is that they forget to list one of their kids, believe it or not. So one of the things that's really helpful for you when you're getting ready to start a new job or a new employer that's offering benefits is to plan ahead. Think ahead about who you want covered, what kind of coverage you need. Do you need health insurance coverage today because you don't have it? Yeah, you probably do. Do you need to have coverage for a child, children, and or a spouse? And that will be a great segue to roll into that last screen. Bob, can you please go down to the beneficiary one? The next one. There we go. Thank you. So the beneficiaries, when we're talking about the information that you need to sign up for group insurance coverage, you're going to need information about yourself as well as beneficiaries. So as new hires, one of the challenges that I come across with many times is people don't know their Social Security numbers. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that don't know their Social Security numbers. Be prepared to bring your Social Security card with you to a new employer on your first day of work, even if you're choosing not to use that for work authorization documents, because that Social Security number is what ties everything together from an employer's perspective. You have to have an accurate Social Security number for payroll purposes. You have to have an accurate Social Security number to get signed up for benefit plans and everything that associates with that employer. So it's important to make sure that you have your Social Security number. Plan ahead and make sure that you bring with you also the Social Security numbers, correct spellings of names, and birth dates for every person that you're planning on covering on group insurance coverage. That includes the definition and defining who your beneficiaries would be once you go ahead and sign up for beneficiaries on life insurance. As I mentioned before, when we're talking about life insurance and retirement plans, the life insurance especially, it's not just about you, because life insurance is what's there for your survivors after you are deceased. Well, in order for that insurance plan to find your survivors, we need to know things like Social Security numbers and birth dates of whoever you've designated. Your retirement plan would also go to a beneficiary in the event that you had a retirement plan. So having that information with you when you start a new job and become eligible for benefits is important. Other things to think about when you're planning beneficiaries and thinking about beneficiaries for those life and those retirement plans would include knowing your marital status. So it matters on some plans. For example, in retirement plans under ERISA, which is a federal law that rules these plans, says that, if you're married, your spouse has to be designated as your beneficiary, unless that spouse signs off on a document and says, yeah, it's okay if I'm not. So your marital status matters when you're designating a beneficiary. In addition to that, a lot of people don't really realize that if you have a child under the age of 18, that child doesn't necessarily get the money. So it will go to whoever the custodial parent is, and the custodial parent is supposed to spend it on behalf of that child's needs. So think about carefully who you would designate as the custodial parent for children under the age of 18 for a beneficiary. The final common thing that I see common error that I see being made for beneficiaries is it's their current roommate that they live with, that they just met when they moved up here to college, that they may not live with next year. It is their current girlfriend that they were with for 3 weeks at the time and are now no longer with. It might, or a boyfriend, or whatever the case might be. When you're choosing a beneficiary, it's really important to make sure that you're choosing somebody that is solidly in your life for a long period of time. Parents, siblings, spouse, children are going to be people that are in your life for longer periods of time, generally speaking, in a perfect world, to make sure that you're designating somebody like that for your beneficiaries versus people that may not be in your life as for a long period of time or on a temporary basis. One of the questions that I know was sent in previously was what to do in the event of marriage when you talk about group benefits. And that's what's called a qualifying event, and employees have 30 days from the date of a qualifying event to actually make changes to their group insurance coverage. A qualifying event would be marriage, divorce, childbirth, legal separation, the death of somebody that was covered on the plan, including the employee. It would be gaining other coverage and losing other coverage. And so those are, generally speaking, you have 30 days roughly to get those changes made to your group insurance coverage. Otherwise, you have to wait until open enrollment periods. You would have to provide proof of the change, so that way the plan can actually make the changes as requested. You'll also have to fill out lovely paperwork or go online if there's an online system to enter those changes within that time frame required. I will answer one question here live that says, how do you choose a financial advisor, before we flip it over to Corey? And you can Google it, or you can use whoever the employer is using on an insurance plan. But ultimately, if you're not sure who you want to pick, interview several and make sure that you're picking one on a fee for service basis, not on a variable basis. And Bob might have additional information on that.
Yeah, Brenda, for me, again, I say no one's going to care more about your personal finance than you. So you want to interview, you want to make sure it's a really good match. Definitely a question to ask financial advisors is, how do you get paid? What's your commission? And to do it on a fee basis, one of the things that you see a lot of financial advisors starting out, they'll want to sell you a whole life policy. They get a very high commission on that, so that motivates them. And if they're paid by commission, they are consciously or unconsciously might sell you the product that gets them the higher commission. So ask them how they get paid, what they do. I do think financial advisors do play a very important part. They can run situations on you if you don't have time to really go through it, but make sure you get the right one. All right, with that, Corey, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Brenda. This is an amazing seminar, and I just want to introduce myself again. Thanks for everybody joining today. I'm Corey Collins. I am an alumni here from Tippie. Graduated back in 2014, got my degree in marketing and also my certificate in entrepreneurial management. So a lot of this advice that you guys are getting right now, just want to let you know, I'm not that much older from graduating Tippie. This is fundamental advice that you do need. So if you haven't been taking notes, I'd really recommend that you are taking notes. This will be recorded, but this just is an opportunity to get ahead of the curve. So really in the 5 or so minutes that I'm going to share with you all, I've just got 5 key points that we can really crystallize some of this advice and kind of just take home with us. First and foremost, it is up to you to get the support that you need. Now, just like it's up to you to go to your classes in Tippie, it is up to you once you graduate to also know, what you need to know in order to get what you need to get. As a fresh graduate, I know the sky is the limit. I'm sure many of you are going to do great things, but one of the things that we often don't do is actually seek the support that we need for things that we don't really have a clear education on. So right now, you have an opportunity to get some great advice from Brenda, some great, brilliant perspective from Bob around some of their knowledge, which is definitely going to aid you. But again, it is on you to make sure that you are getting the support that you need. Which brings me to like point number 2. How do you know what you need? Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? And a lot of times you do need to do that research. You do need to ask the questions. You do need to go find that mentor or someone, who may be more experienced than you in that field. So really just, not letting ego or pride get in the way of your help is going to be how you become open to getting the support that you need. So if that means doing your research, there are plenty of things with Google, and I know TikTok's a new thing. You can just click on a 15-second video and it's going to give you some information, but you really want to make sure your advice is coming from credible sources. So your employer definitely is going to be a credible source. If you have a financial advisor, as Brenda or Bob said, even if you want to, reach out to Tippie. I know there are alumni here that can definitely be a good course for you if you don't have the perspective that you're looking for. There are many people that can help you, but again, it's on you to do that research. So that again leads to the third point, which is around communication. Asking for help is difficult. I'll be the first one to let you know. And I can actually share a story of mine, graduating from the University of Iowa back in 2014. Now I'm in my role here at Netflix, but it did start from Tippie to Netflix. I'll be the first one to let you know that's a myth. It takes time. I am actually on job number 6 since graduating from Tippie back in 2014. So I've had many different employers. I started off my career at Insight Global as a technical recruiter. And really, it was a field that I was good at. I wasn't in love with my employer at the time, but it was something that I knew I can do for a longer period of time. So I invested in my career. I took a shot at it. I went through jobs where I worked at, corporate America, large term, but then, I went into an agency life. I actually had some roommates that started their own business, and I worked at a startup before then. I worked in a consulting firm, and then I got that knock on the door from Facebook. So that journey really showed me that your information isn't going to always come to you as fluidly as you think it would. Oftentimes, it's going to be you asking those questions and you being vulnerable with people to get that information that you need. And so I really encourage you, to just be open to receiving feedback, be open to hearing perspectives of other people, because those are also going to be the things that you can really start to make educated decisions off of versus, making assumptions or assuming that information that you haven't yet processed fully. So, ask questions of your peers, your coworkers, find mentors. But lastly, most importantly, this is all about making your life better. So Bob said, money's not going to be the key to your success, but it definitely can help accelerate that. It definitely can help give you access to things that can fuel your passions, that can fuel some of the things that you actually enjoy. So, do yourself a favor, invest in it, invest in some of these research, invest in some of these mentors, invest in yourself, because as you become better, whether that be jumping from different jobs or getting into different fields or just growing in the career that you're in right now, the more that you can actually invest into your future, the better your life is going to be. So I'll leave it on that. I know we have Barb who's going to hop back on here for probably like a Q&A. Definitely a great conversation that I'm happy to have with everybody around.
Great. Thanks so much to everyone here. Great information. So Corey, you talked about 6 jobs, right? And I think we discussed this a bit in our prep meeting. I wonder if Bob had a little bit of advice for people. So you start a job, you get that first 401k from the company, but you're there for a year or two, then you get the next job. What does a younger professional need to do, or an older professional, as they change jobs with their 401ks?
So I'll take that. Make sure I'm off mute. With that, you can do a direct rollover. And actually talking to my accountant, I have money in IRAs, traditional IRAs from back in the day when I worked for other businesses. And he said you might want to consider rolling that from a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA, especially if you're younger. Your tax rate is going to be less. Who knows in 40 years what our tax rate will be. The downside to this, if you have $20,000 in your retirement fund from a previous employer, that's going to be taxed as ordinary income. So it could push you up in your income tax bracket. but then you have 40 years of all that money earning interest tax-free. You already paid tax on what you put in that, so that when you withdraw it at age 59 and a half or older, you don't have to pay tax on it again. And if you have a Roth IRA for over 5 years, you can take out the money that you contributed to it, up to $10,000 for the purchase of your first home. There's limits on what you can do for education, for medical reimbursement, unreimbursed medical expenses and things like that. So I consider, that Roth IRA, that they always say you should have 3 to 6 months worth of income saved up. Well, if worse comes to worse, I'm going to tap my IRAs, because that 3 to 6 months starting out is a huge number. How am I going to start it? How am I going to get it? But I would consider rolling it into a Roth. Again, talk to your financial advisor, the one that you picked, right? To make sure you're doing the right thing. The other thing I want to piggyback on to is, Brenda, what you said, those targeted retirement funds, that they will, at the beginning, you're pretty aggressive in stocks. As you get older, more into bonds, so you don't lose it all. The thing with mutual funds, I love mutual funds because you're diversified, which limits your risk. But take a look at what fees they charge. There's, to me, I like to do my own investment with very little fees. I don't want people taking 2 to 4% out of my portfolio every year. I want to have all that money working for me. So again, take a look at what their operating fees are. If a financial advisor says, okay, we have this fund and this fund, okay, which one has lower fees? If I put $100 in, I want $99.99 working for me. That 1 penny I'll pay in fees.
That is a really great point. It's that no load fees. I will say my mom was the queen of the no load. She was a big fan of investing in mutual funds, and always with a no load, because she was a do-it-yourselfer. That should not be a surprise for some of you that would be my mom. Okay, Brenda, I've got a question for you. We talked about the changing in the life changes and how you can do that. That gives you that opportunity to change your plan. You mentioned things like weddings and deaths and things. Does a loss of job also qualify for that? So if you or your spouse loses a job, that is also a qualifying event?
So yes, a loss of job, if you had insurance coverage through that employer for health insurance, for example, and you lose that group insurance coverage, yes, you would have 30 days to sign up for, say, a spouse's plan, or enroll on the new employer's plan whenever the new employer offers coverage. But yes, a loss of a job, loss of other coverage would qualify. However, keep in mind that voluntarily canceling COBRA continuation because it was too expensive is not a loss of coverage, because you voluntarily chose to drop that coverage.
Got it. Okay, and then the other question, I know that for me as a University of Iowa employee, our open enrollment period, like we get sent the information in October, we have to make a decision in early November. Is that a universal date? Do like all benefit plans work on that schedule, or are they different? And is that something that you just need to take note of at a new employer?
It's definitely something you need to take note of at the new employer. Many plans do renew with a January 1 effective date, but I have lots and lots of plans, though, that will renew at various dates throughout a year. And so it's definitely something you need to ask the new employer. So if you choose to waive coverage when you're initially eligible as a new hire, the next question should be, when will I have an opportunity to enroll again if I choose to waive it now?
Got it. And then lastly, kind of hitting on when you talked about beneficiaries, I know, and we're going to cover some of this in our third webinar, where we're going to talk about building and protecting your nest. But when you, like, from my personal experience, I listed my husband as first, but in our will, where we covered what we wanted to have happen with our money and the raising of our children, if our children were still minors, that does need to be listed as like your secondary beneficiary. Is that correct?
Many times, yes, you will put on there as outlined in my last will and testament.
Got it. Now,
Brenda, I have a question for you.
sure.
I'm turning 26 in May. Oh, I wish, right? And I'm on my parents' policy at 26. Does my health insurance end? And then is that a qualifying event where I can join my company's policy, or do I need to do that, like Barb said, in November before I turn 26?
Turning age 26 is a qualifying event that will allow you to sign up for your employer's plan because you are losing coverage through your parents' plan. Now you have to ask your parents, or your parents need to ask their company's plan, does that child's coverage end on the date they turn 26, or does it end at the end of the month in which they turn 26? Every plan does that a little bit differently. And so you would want to make sure that you ask that question.
So the big thing to remember there is to think about it before you turn 26, not
Absolutely.
when you just turn 26, but before you turn 26. Well, I want to make sure that some of our people look in the chat. We've received some great helpful link on how to pick a financial advisor. Again, I'm going to do another plug. You're going to learn about that in our third webinar about building and protecting your nest, where we will talk about how to pick a financial advisor. Again, Bob is kind of showcasing those are our upcoming Tippie alumni webinars. We have one that will talk about experiential economics, but then we have other life lessons webinars as well. You can learn about them all on the Tippie alumni webpage, which is simply tippie.uiowa.edu/alumni. So with that, we're kind of starting to run out of time. I know there were a few other questions. I do want to mention that for some of the questions that we have received, you've asked us some very specific financial advice. And that is really, we kind of can't go there. It is not our role to provide specific financial advice. We encourage you to find that financial advisor. Perhaps it's a personal attorney as well, or a CPA. We train a lot of those here. And that those are the people whose professional work is about providing that formal advice. So I do want to thank our speakers again for giving their time and helping us with our discussion today. In addition, I want to remind you that when you get this email with the link, one, you can share the link with whoever you want, but there will be a link to 5 different handouts from our speakers. That includes a glossary of health coverage and medical terms. So when you have some questions about HMOs versus other options, you may find that information there. As well as Brenda has provided an addendum, the alphabet soup of benefits terminology, because there's a lot of letters and a lot of acronyms that float around here. So super helpful information for you, as well as the top questions that employees should be asking about company benefits when they are looking at a new job or just starting, and the things to review in a benefit plan. As Bob mentioned, there are those great spreadsheets that these are actual Excel documents that you will be able to download and use for your own purposes. So these are all just a part of how the Tippie College of Business's alumni team is trying to provide you with learning opportunities at whatever stage of life you are at. So at the end of this webinar, you will receive a short survey. We would appreciate it if you would just take a moment or two to just answer a few questions. If you have ideas for future webinars, feel free to put those ideas in there as well. So on behalf of the Tippie College of Business and our fabulous panel of speakers who have joined us here today, I want to again thank you all for participating. And as always, go Hawks.
Thank you.